In the mid-60s, David Bowie was part of the mod subculture. The mods were working-class kids who prized their sophistication compared to previous working-class generations, and adopted anything that was modern, new and exciting. They were individualists, but they were also part of a collective, as they needed to flaunt their individualism in the face of their peers. Every mod's aspiration was to be the most sharply dressed, to have the coolest look, to be a fashion trendsetter, to own the newest records and to know the latest dance moves. It was a constantly changing world in which every week brought something new, and you had to be up to what was going on or you would lose face. Thus, the mods were always at the vanguard of youth culture, always smarter and savvier than society at large, and the prime catalyst for the swinging London scene. Around 1966, however, a new state of mind started to infiltrate youth culture, a state of mind that aspired to go deeper than the fashion game of the mods. The California hippies, inspired by the psychedelic experience they got from dropping acid, and by Eastern and Western mysticism, went beyond individuality and talked of submerging in the oneness of all being. They had their own style, their own music, their own bands and their own philosophy, and some of it started to be imported to London. By 1967, hippie style was the newest thing around, and the mods had to sample it. But with that, they incorporated a style that in some ways was contrary to their own, and that muddled the purity of the subculture. The combination of both subcultures was initially very fertile and made 1967 a very colorful and dazzling year. But Bowie already saw the downsides.
Let me introduce you to the gang. Johnny plays the sitar, he's an existentialist. Once he had a name, now he plays our game. You won't feel so good now that you've joined the gang.
The singer is a member of some London bohemian clique, and introduces us to it. This is the most rock and roll track on the album, and it opens with rock drums, which are joined by a totally manic sitar. Indian classical music, with its mystical vibe, was very popular among hippies, and Johnny, the first character we are introduced to, picked it up. But he also lost something in the process. He was once a unique individual, someone with a name, and now he's just a gang member. It seems that Bowie decries the loss of individualism in this half-mod, half-hippie culture, and warns that when the sitar music dies down, we won't feel so good about it.
Molly is the model in the ads. Crazy clothes and acid, full of soul and crazy hip. Someone switched her on, then her beam went wrong. 'Cause she can't switch off now that she's joined the gang.
Another member is Molly, who is a model, yet another occupation that became a cultural icon in 60s swinging London. But Molly took acid and it messed her up, probably irreversibly. It seems that she lost her fashion sense as well in this switch from mod to hippie.
Arthur is a singer with a band. Arthur drinks 2 bottles just before he goes on stage. Look at Arthur rave, all the kids have paid. They want to see the croaking man who joined the gang.
Now we focus on the rock singers, and see them descending into alcoholism. The once youthful and innocent world of rock and roll starts to show signs of decadence.
You won't be alone, we've all got beery grins. It's a big illusion, but at least you're in. At least you're in.
It's all about being in, being cool, being hip. This was important for both mods and hippies. But, says Bowie, it's all nothing but empty posing.
This club's called The Web, it's this month's pick. Next month we shall find a place where prices ain't so stiff. 15 bob a coke, afraid that's past a joke. This is how to spend now that you've joined the gang.
Another swinging London tenet was the need to always remain fresh and on the move. The mods would switch clubs and hanging places, always looking for the newest hot place. Our gang goes to the club that is this month's pick, while the music changes into what was this month's hottest record when Bowie recorded this song, Spencer Davis Group's Gimme Some Lovin'. With hindsight, this part puts Bowie's scorn in perspective, as Gimme Some Lovin' was not just that one's pick, but is now considered a timeless classic, and Bowie himself would reference it 3 decades later in Strangers When We Meet.
This is what to do now that you're here. Sit round doing nothing all together very fast. Psychedelic stars throwing down cigars. They're picking up the joints now that they've joined the gang.
Once they are in the club, they just sit around smoking joints and not doing much else. And this is the crux of the record. Swinging London swung because there were always new things coming in, pushing in a different direction and compelling everyone else to push back by creating something new of their own. But this new thing that has arrived now has a slowing down effect on the whole process. The way things are going, says the record, swinging London will not swing for much longer.